When pursuing a world record, a person will do anything it takes to achieve the goal, whether it may be considered unethical or controversial. This thought has consistently stayed in the minds of those attempting to achieve world record status on any game, no matter the map that the player is attempting or how difficult it may be considered to the overall community. With how long high rounds take on any given game, it is not surprising seeing the lengths to which people will go to gain just a slight edge, to be just that little bit faster to outrun a reset timer or crash. However, some of these decisions could be met with extreme controversy. Well, today I am going to be discussing one of the most forgotten strategies that high rounders of the past have used to gain an edge over their opponents, with the strategy being dubbed the fast ray gun glitch. Now, while this is simple in name and kinda sounds like a clickbait title you would see in 2013, the fast ray gun glitch was once one of the most heated controversies in the zombies community a couple years ago, even sparking debates over whether or not the strategy was ethical for use or not. However, before we discuss why this was a contended strategy, we must first figure out how this exploit worked and why it was such a nuisance to the zombies community. So join me as we discuss one of the darkest times in Call of Duty Zombies world record history and how it has impacted those who have come after it. Before we discuss this strategy and its effect on the community as a whole, it is important to understand what games this would be used on and the mechanics of such games themselves. The fast ray gun glitch was a strategy used in some of the earliest Call of Duty Zombies titles to date, the most notable of which, however, were Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. Obviously, these games are gaining age each and every day, as Black Ops 1 was released initially in 2010 and Black Ops 2 in 2012. So it was genuinely impressive initially seeing someone discover an exploit after all of the years prior. However, with old age comes problems, especially when it comes to video games, and Black Ops 1 and 2 are no different. In both of these games, there is an in-game timer that is set immediately as you spawn into the map, known as a reset timer, which will completely reset your game after a certain amount of time on any given map. These reset timers could range from a multitude of numbers and are all slightly different depending on the map that you are playing. However, it is just important to know that it is present in every map in Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. With these reset timers in place in all of the maps, high rounding in these early games are less about actually killing zombies to advance rounds, but more of a race against the reset timer to achieve the desired round. Now that you understand that runners are against the clock in these situations, how does this glitch actually work? Well, the first ever use of the fast ray gun glitch would be seen in January of 2020, making this a very recent strategy that would quickly begin to see some opposition in the high rounding scene. Essentially, it was discovered that if you change weapons, shoot, and reload all at the same time, you could shoot at incredible speeds that had not been seen ever before in the history of the game. However, in the early stages of this exploit, one could only achieve this by either the use of macros or scripting it themselves, which obviously took prior experience or other knowledge beforehand, making this a lesser known tactic initially. For those curious, a macro is simply something one can use to bind any key to their keyboard to have multiple inputs, which would obviously make something like this rapid fire glitch possible. Anyways, after a couple of months in the March of 2020, a player by the name of Strett began to get involved to enhance this exploit to more than it could ever be. Strett wanted to discover a way to complete this exploit without the use of scripting, running multiple tests attempting to solve this issue. However, a huge breakthrough developed when he found that by the use of the mouse scroll wheel, one could complete this exploit without the use of scripting whatsoever. This was an enormous breakthrough for the evolution of this exploit, exploit, and by using the binds shown on screen here, it would be completely possible to do something like this for an average PC player. Taking a look at a comparison, a video done by Strett shows that it would take close to 7 seconds to empty out the entirety of a ray gun clip with the normal use. However, with this rapid fire glitch, it could be done in a mere 2 seconds. Obviously, this was an insane discovery at the time, as not only would this allow people to more efficiently high round on certain maps, but it would also allow people to beat the reset timer, which would in turn allow for further round progression. Unfortunately, at the time, this was simply restricted to PC users, and console players could not complete this glitch as they did not have a scroll wheel or any access to macros or scripting. A few theories were developed as to how controller players could use this glitch, and I am not entirely sure if in the end any may have been found. However, I do firmly believe that it should be possible, however it would be extremely difficult. However, why is this glitch useful besides its appearance being insanely exciting at a visual perspective? Well, as mentioned earlier, high rounds in these older games are more akin to something like speedruns rather than getting to the highest round possible, as the reset timer prevents any time for hesitation or error. Looking specifically to maps such as Nuketown with no real infinite damage wonder weapon, one must fend off with the ray gun and ray gun Mark II, which obviously are not the most efficient at killing zombies at high rounds. This means that these high rounds involve an insane amount of box hits each game, with more than 1,000 ray guns a game having to be used and swapped out each game, meaning that if one could shoot faster, the rounds could be pushed to their absolute limits. Another unique area the strategy was implemented was seen with first room challenges. Both Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 first room high rounds are genuinely some of the most insane zombies games I have ever watched that take insane amounts of skill to even begin to compete. The way people manage to just seamlessly fly and glide around the zombies is truly a work of art and is easily a extremely well-deserved achievement in the leaderboards. Anyways, what is unique about first room challenges is that you are not limited by time constraints and worrying about a reset timer. However, you are very limited by the weapon availability in the spawn room. Moving into the high 20s and 30s, a simple Cavern or M14 will take a extremely long amount of time to kill and can often be hard to use. However, with the use of rapid fire, these rounds could be completed a lot easier than before. This innovation to many was arguably seen as an opening into a new world of first room records, as the category was honestly not a popular run, as many saw it to be too difficult to even attempt. However, an intense army of those who opposed this exploit were there to meet those who believed the strategy was viable, and things got heated. To understand each side, we need to take a deeper look into each one of their perspectives to truly understand their situation. With any new discovery or innovation, there will always be people that attempt to shoot it down, as they do not see it either ethical or traditional in their eyes. This happened with this exact situation, and there was a multitude of pretty valid arguments as to why many believe that this technique should be banned altogether. Firstly, for the majority of players, this rapid fire glitch was only something that PC players could take advantage of. While this strategy can theoretically be done on console, the majority of records at that time were being set on PC compared to console. This essentially means that an entire group of players would be eliminated entirely from being able to compete at all because they simply play on a console. Another reason many wanted this exploit banned was because many were taking advantage of the use of macros in their games, as stated earlier. Any game that can be speedrun to complete, such as Mario 64, will always see debates as to whether or not macros should be accepted, so it was no surprise that many were upset with the use of this in the game. Surprisingly, the group that actually pushed back the most on this issue were the first room players, and they actually had a multitude of reasons as to why they were not ecstatic about this new innovation. As mentioned earlier, these first room players are not racing against any reset timer, so why would they need to worry about using a glitch to speed speed up their game whatsoever. Additionally, many of these players at the time were on controller, which as mentioned earlier is theoretically possible to use, however it was never implemented correctly. However, there is always another side to an argument, and there were many who were in favor of maintaining this exploit as a legal option for players to use. One major argument that these people had were that the high rounding community was getting to a point where you needed to be on PC anyways to reach the higher rounds, as the consoles could simply not remain stable if one goes on for as long as it takes. The console community technically had already been excluded from high rounding anyways, as some of the world records at the time were not even possible to reach on console. Many also argued that this feature was a organic feature inside the game that was available since day one. After all, it really only takes a couple keybind issues and switches to fully initiate. However, after many months of debate and polls being created online about this issue, a final answer would finally be revealed to the world about this issue that had been plaguing the zombies high rounding scene for a multitude of months up to this point. Sometime in mid to late 2020, the official zombies leaderboards team dubbed this exploit as illegal, and all runs that had been uploaded at the time using it would be immediately taken off of the leaderboards. This meant that records such as the first ever Nuketown Round 100 were taken down because of the team deeming the exploit a cheat and no longer a viable strategy. Ever since this ban, no opposition to this has ever sparked up again, and it is safe to say that this may have been the right decision after all. Even without this exploit, many have discovered ways to complete rounds that were not once possible, such as the Call of the Dead Round 100 recently, proving that this technique was not needed to advance and grow this community higher than it could ever be. If you would like to try out this strategy for yourself, it is completely fine to do as a regular playthrough. However, I will warn you, it is extremely difficult to get used to, and I myself was terrible at it. Anyways, with all that said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.